The UFC welterweight champion believes a crossover boxing bout against Canelo is a must-happen in combat sports, and he thinks it's not as hard to make happen as people make it out to be. Currently, Usman is considered by most the best fighter at 170 pounds, being UFC welterweight champion and having held that coveted spot for 3 years. Meanwhile, Canelo is the undisputed boxing champion at super middleweight, 168 pounds.
2022, I'm going to shock the world. July, International Fight Week, I'm going to fight Leon Edwards. God willing, I get through Leon Edwards. September, Mexican Independence Day, I will stop Canelo Alvarez.
Usman's intention to clash with Alvarez is real. Lately, he has even named a date to face the current undisputed super middleweight champion, September, just on the Mexican Independence Day. Although, Canelo may have already scheduled a fight against Gennady Golovkin in those days, if he overcomes Bivol on May 7th. The main reason for Usman to target a fight against Canelo Alvarez is to offer the fans one of the biggest events in the sport ever. During an interview with BT Sports, the UFC welterweight champion said it would be the biggest fight ever if Dana White got involved.
Yeah, but like I've said, this fight will be the greatest and the biggest fight ever in the history of combat sports, and that's because we have to have the biggest and the baddest promoter ever in the history of combat sport, Dana White, behind us.
Kamaru's team is also pushing for this fight. In an interview for MMA Junkie, Ali Abdelaziz, Usman's promoter, has not only anticipated that this guy could beat Canelo Alvarez in a boxing clash, but also predicted the explosive way this could happen if they meet in the ring.
Kamaru knock him out in 3 rounds.
You really think so?
I do so. Listen, you cannot say no to Kamaru. You cannot say no to Kamaru. He's a guy who's come from Africa, has jumped a lot of obstacles. I believe in Kamaru. This is the difference between me and other people. When I'm in people, I believe in him. I live with him. I breathe with him. I die with him. I fight with him. And especially the special person in my life. How many street fights me and Kamaru been to? We've been in a lot of street fights, and I have to believe in him. I believe Kamaru can beat any man alive.
It is not only his heart speaking. Kamaru Usman's manager has a solid reason to believe his fighter could be able to run over Canelo Alvarez.
They cannot call Canelo the baddest man on the planet. They cannot call Canelo the pound for pound best boxer. Because if they both met in the street, who's going to win? Kamaru beat his ass like he stole something.
Usman is also confident that a boxing match against Canelo is a possibility and doesn't shy away from the challenge, even though he's not a boxer.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't it be a possibility? He said it himself. Yeah. Why wouldn't it be? Pound for pound versus pound for pound. And what Ali meant in that is they expect us to go over there. We're fighters. We're real fighters. What would happen if me and him was out in the street? Yeah. We're real fighters, but they expect us to come in and participate in their sport, their art. So it is what it is. That's why Ali said that. But at the end of the day, hey, I'm willing to step in there. I've got the cojones enough to step in there and do my thing. So, it is what it is. I think that fight 100% needs to happen, pound for pound versus pound for pound, and I've said it. Everyone will always say it can't be done until they see it done. So, I've said it before, I will stop him.
There have been very few circumstances where high-caliber boxers and top-notch UFC fighters have met in the past. Former boxing champion James Toney fought former UFC champion Randy Couture in the UFC back in 2010. And most notably, former 2-division UFC champion Conor McGregor stepped in the ring to take on boxing legend Floyd Mayweather in 2017. It's a rare sighting to see a UFC champion in the boxing ring, but Usman doesn't think it's a tough decision to make.
Me and Dana haven't talked about it, but it's a fight that I want. If Canelo wants to fight, which he's said that he's not opposed to the fight, then we'll make the fight happen. It's not too difficult. Dana White's the greatest promoter in the game for a reason. So it's not something that's too difficult to make. I think we can make that fight.
But Canelo said UFC star Usman is just looking for a payday. However, the Mexican maintained he isn't completely against the idea.
Payday.
That's the payday, I know.
Canelo, who faces Bivol for the Russians' light heavyweight WBA title, said he wants to concentrate on his boxing legacy first, before entertaining such fights. Canelo and Usman share several qualities that could make the bout highly marketable. Both men stand atop the pound-for-pound ranking for their respective sports, and both men are unbeaten in the competition since 2013, when Canelo lost to Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Usman lost on his second professional MMA fight. Unfortunately for Usman, UFC President Dana White has already shut down any such talks. But that is just fine for Canelo, who says he has other fish to fry at the moment.
My trainer told me about it, and I said, well, if you say.
But it's not something really on your mind.
No, it's not really in my mind. I want a really good legacy from my career, and then we can talk about it, other things, right? Later.
At the moment, what is on Canelo's mind is his upcoming WBA super light heavyweight title fight against Dimitri Bivol, which will take place May 7th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. But you never know what could happen after both Usman and Canelo finish their upcoming bouts. Unfortunately for Usman, UFC President Dana White has already shut down any such talks. But that is just fine for Canelo, who says he has other fish to fry. By the time UFC 268's co-main event rolled around, pictures started to surface of UFC President Dana White watching Canelo Alvarez versus Caleb Plant cage-side at Madison Square Gardens, while Ras Namajunas and Zhang Weili slugged it out. At the UFC 268 press conference, White copped to multitasking, which he said was the result of a $100,000 bet on Alvarez to win by knockout. It wasn't because he was trying to line up UFC welterweight champ Kamaru Usman's next fight. Usman made headlines by talking up a boxing match with Alvarez before his rematch with Colby Covington, the latest UFC fighter to seek fortune and fame inside the squared circle. His only roadblock is White, who's not eager for the welterweight champion to follow in Conor McGregor's footsteps, particularly after Saturday.
Pound for pound boxer.
I watched the Canelo fight tonight. You don't want to fight Canelo. You don't want to fight Canelo. Come on, man. Let's stop this shit. If Canelo wants to come over here, let's do it. You don't want to box Canelo.
The timing on such a matchup would be prime, given Usman's status atop the pound-for-pound rankings and Alvarez's history-making turn unifying the super middleweight title. Then again, White doesn't exactly get along with Alvarez's current promoter, Showtime, which elected to counter-program UFC 268 on Saturday night. The UFC president called the decision insane and added it doesn't make sense, though he said Saturday's Octagon event blew away pay-per-view projections and landed at number 4 on the all-time live gate list for Madison Square Garden. He also took another shot at Showtime by criticizing the $79.99 price tag. Usman was too busy to do the same. After his third title fight in 2021, he gave the impression that the grind of his championship schedule was beginning to wear him out. A rematch with Covington, whom he outpointed by unanimous decision, wasn't out of the question, but it was also dependent on whether he was still around in the sport. A fight with Alvarez was about giving him a new challenge to work for. When Usman was told of White's take on Alvarez's showdown, he made a sour face and said he didn't agree.
Dana doesn't know that. You know, like I said, I want something that scares me. You know, if I'm gonna leave my daughter for another 12 weeks or more, it's gotta be something that really, really gets me up. And, I like that. I want to challenge myself.
What do you think about a potential boxing match against Canelo Alvarez and Kamaru Usman? Do you think Kamaru has any chance of winning? Let us know in the comments section down below what you think of this.